Welcome back, race fans. Today, we're diving straight into the absolute chaos that was the 2025 Moto2 race at the Circuit of the Americas. We are talking high-stakes strategy, wild weather swings, and just an absolute masterclass in motorcycle control. This explainer is going to cover all of it. So let's get right to it and set the stage. All right, to really appreciate the madness of Sunday, we have to start with the dry qualifying results. Jake Dixon was just on another level here, putting his Elf Mark VDS machine squarely on pole with a blisteringly fast 2 minutes 7.432 second lap. But it wasn't exactly a runaway. Right on his tail was championship leader Manuel Gonzalez, just a quarter of a second behind him, with Barry Baltus rounding out the top three. Honestly, it looked like we were perfectly set up for a classic, super tight, dry weather shootout between the frontrunners. But, well, Mother Nature completely threw a wrench in the works. Literally right after the Moto3 race wrapped up, a massive rainstorm just hammered the track. And guys, this was not just a light drizzle. The track conditions deteriorated so fast and got so incredibly slick that we actually saw reports popping up online, like this incredible comment from a Reddit user, noting that the official safety car literally crashed at turn 14. Seriously, the safety car. That totally calm, dry qualifying session was ancient history. The storm had officially arrived in Austin. So, right before the lights even went out, we witnessed a massive, potentially season-defining gamble on tire strategy. Track temps were sitting around 26 degrees Celsius, and race control officially declared it a wet race. And the grid just completely split in half. On one side, you had riders like Dixon, Tony Arbolino, and Aaron Canet making the logical, safe choice, throwing on the wet tires. But then you had guys like championship leader Manuel Gonzalez, Diogo Moreira, and Joe Roberts, who took a massive, massive risk. They bolted on slick tires, basically crossing their fingers and praying that a dry line would form quickly. Well, the second the lights went out, that slick tire gamble completely blew up in their faces. The slick runners just plummeted down the order instantly, fighting tooth and nail just to keep their bikes upright in the spray. Meanwhile, Jake Dixon seized absolute control. He flawlessly piloted his Boscasquero chassis through the absolute torrential conditions. And it was brutal out there. By lap 5, Philippe Salak had to pull into the pits to retire, and on lap 12, Denis Ankou had a heavy crash that completely ended his race. But through all of that pure chaos, from the start right to the checkered flag, Dixon was practically untouchable, cruising across the finish line with a massive lead. You know, Dixon's absolute masterclass in the rain wasn't just some lucky break. He was truly in a league of his own the entire weekend. If we rewind a bit and look at the data from Friday's Free Practice 1, which was also completely wet, Dixon actually topped those timing sheets by an unbelievable 1.2 seconds. It was clear right from the jump that he had his setup completely dialed in. He just had this psychological and technical mastery over the wet Coda asphalt that nobody else could touch all weekend long. So let's break down how that wild ride actually translated to the final timing sheets. Because of those extreme wet conditions, we ended up seeing some absolutely massive time gaps across the board. Dixon took the win with a super comfortable 4.1 second margin over Tony Arbolino. Then you've got Alonso Lopez surviving the madness to take third, but he was over 12 seconds back from the leader. Aaron Canet fought his way to fourth, and you've got to notice Mario Aggi down there in ninth, crossing the line over 33 seconds behind Dixon. Honestly, for anyone who actually finished in the points this weekend, it was just a pure test of endurance. Now, looking beyond just those sheer time gaps, there are actually some really incredible historic milestones buried in these results. Tony Arbolino didn't just snag second place, he secured the Blue Crew Pramac Yamaha team's first ever Moto2 podium. Talk about a massive morale boost for that development program. And how about Mario Aggi? His heroic ride to 9th place officially marks the best ever finish for an Indonesian rider in the history of the Moto2 World Championship. Just amazing stuff. On the flip side of all that history, though, Manuel Gonzalez's disastrous slick tire gamble meant he actually crossed the finish line a full lap down from the leaders. Okay, but we do have to give Gonzalez a little bit of credit for sheer stubborn determination here. As a tiny consolation prize, a dry line actually did appear at the very, very end of the race, and Gonzalez managed to set a blazing 2-minute, 15-second fastest lap on his final time around the track. Which is great, except as fans online immediately pointed out, doing that while you're running a full lap down is kind of like scoring an absolutely spectacular wonder goal in the 95th minute of a soccer match when your team is already down 5-0. All right, let's bring it all together with what you've all been waiting for, the updated championship points ranking. And wow, this chaotic race caused a massive shakeup. Because of that slick tire gamble, Manuel Gonzalez walked away with 0 points, which drops him down to third overall with 45 points. Aaron Canet slides up into second with 46 points, but it's Jake Dixon riding high on that absolute masterclass in risk management and wet weather control who catapults straight to the top of the standings with 59 points. Which leaves us with a pretty fascinating question to wrap up on. Dixon has clearly proven that he can perfectly adapt to his new Bosco-Scuro chassis, and he obviously has unmatched pace when the weather turns unpredictable. So, with the European leg of the season coming up fast, where spring weather is notoriously volatile, is there anyone on the grid who can actually stop Jake Dixon from just running away with this title? It is definitely going to be an incredible season to watch unfold. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and we'll see you next time the lights go out.